Hey everybody, welcome back. In today's tutorial, we will talk about how to create user-defined functions in Python. So let's get started. What are functions? Functions are like a chunk of code written to perform a specific task. So they are useful because instead of writing the same code over and over again, we can just encapsulate the whole chunk of code in a function, and then we can call that function wherever or whenever we want to execute that particular chunk of code. So it makes your code looks easier to read, organized, and maintainable. So let's start with creating our first function. So that's the syntax. You use the keyword def spaced and then the name of your function and then parenthesis, colon, and then inside its body we can write anything that we want to execute. So if we call this function, greet, it will print what's written inside. We can also add arguments and return statement to make our function more versatile. Here is another example. In this example, we are taking two arguments and we are returning the sum of those two arguments. So in order to call a function, you need to write the name and parenthesis. It's called calling a function. So if you have arguments and you don't specify them, the Python will generate you an error that it takes two positional arguments and I have provided none. Similarly, in Jupyter Notebook, you can press Shift Tab to check how many arguments it takes and what does function do. So in order to specify the description in this docstring, we can use docstrings that we learned earlier. I can say this function adds two numbers. If I run this again and check, it docstring says this function adds two number now. So it's good to write comments and docstrings in your code so that other people can understand them or understand your code as well. So there are a few other things that you need to consider. It's called scope of variables. Everything you define inside a function or inside the definition of a function, it is not accessible directly outside. For example, if I have a function, say f, and I say d equals to 0, print d. So this function will print d. But if I try to access d outside, it will say that the name d is not defined. And conversely, everything written outside the function are global and can be used everywhere. For example, if I define another variable j 9, and if I make another function f1 and try to print that j after calling that function, I can see the number j. But if I try to print anything else that is not defined at all, the compiler will generate me an error that that particular variable that I try to use is not defined. So what we discussed so far is what are functions, how to create functions with arguments and return statement, and scope of variables. So that's it for today. Thank you for watching. Bye.